What if life doesn't actually need to become easier, because you can become better at carrying it? There are 7 simple mental rules that can change the way you handle stress, rejection, failure, people, and uncertainty. And once you understand them, situations that used to drain you may suddenly feel much smaller. Have you ever noticed how 2 people can face the same problem, yet one completely falls apart while the other stays calm? The difference isn't always their situation. Sometimes it's the rules they live by inside their mind. Life will always bring stress, rejection, uncertainty, disappointment, and unexpected problems. But you don't have to let every problem steal your peace. In this video, you'll discover 7 powerful mental rules that can make difficult situations feel lighter, help you think more clearly, and protect your emotional energy. And the 7th rule might completely change the way you handle overwhelming moments. 1. Don't turn every situation into a personal story. Imagine you send someone a message. They see it. Hours pass. No reply. Your brain immediately begins working. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Maybe they don't like me anymore. Notice what happened. You started with one simple fact. They haven't replied. But your mind created an entire story around it. This is something humans naturally do. Our brains constantly try to fill gaps in information. But the story your mind creates isn't always the truth. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they forgot. Maybe something completely unrelated happened. The problem begins when you treat your interpretation as a fact. A powerful mental rule is this: separate what happened from what you think it means. Instead of saying, "They ignored me because they don't respect me," say, "They haven't responded yet. I don't know why." That tiny change creates emotional space, and emotional space gives you better decisions. This rule applies everywhere. Someone laughs while you're speaking. Don't automatically assume they're laughing at you. Someone disagrees with you. That doesn't automatically mean they dislike you. Someone gets promoted before you. That doesn't mean you're failing. Your mind will always create stories. Your job isn't to stop your mind from creating them. Your job is to stop believing every story immediately. And that brings us to the 2nd rule. 2. Stop trying to control what was never yours to control. Think about how much energy people spend controlling things they have absolutely no control over. Other people's opinions, other people's reactions, the past, the timing of success, whether someone understands you, whether someone chooses you, whether someone changes. You can spend hours thinking about these things, but thinking about something doesn't give you control over it. It only gives it more space inside your head. A healthier question is, what part of this situation is actually in my control? Maybe you can't control whether someone respects you, but you can control how you behave. You can't control whether someone rejects you, but you can control what you learn from it. You can't control what happened yesterday, but you can control what you do today. This idea sounds simple, but it can completely change your emotional life. Imagine you're walking through a storm. You can't command the rain to stop, but you can find shelter. You can carry an umbrella. You can choose where to walk. Life works the same way. You don't need control over the entire situation. You only need control over your next move. And once you understand that, you stop wasting energy fighting reality. Instead, you start working with it. 3. Never make a permanent decision during a temporary emotion. You've probably experienced this. You're angry, so you want to send the message. You're hurt, so you want to end the relationship. You're frustrated, so you want to quit. You're embarrassed, so you want to disappear. The emotion feels huge in that moment, and because it feels huge, your brain tells you, do something right now. But emotions are temporary states. What feels unbearable at 10 p.m. may feel completely different at 10 a.m. That's why one of the smartest mental rules is pause before making major decisions when your emotions are intense. You don't have to suppress the emotion. Feel it, acknowledge it, but don't immediately obey it. Give yourself time, take a walk, sleep on it, write down what you're feeling. Talk to someone you trust. Then decide. Think about anger like a wave. If you fight the wave, it can overwhelm you. If you wait, it eventually loses its power. You don't need to make every decision while standing in the middle of the emotional storm. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is nothing, just for a little while. Because clarity often arrives after emotion becomes quieter, and that leads to rule number 4.4. Not everything deserves your attention. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own. But most people give it away for free. A random comment, a negative person, a social media argument, a mistake from 3 years ago, someone else's success, someone's opinion about you. And then they wonder why their mind feels exhausted. Here's the truth. What repeatedly receives your attention eventually receives your energy. If you constantly focus on negativity, your world starts feeling negative. If you constantly compare yourself to others, your own progress starts looking smaller. If you constantly watch what other people are doing, you stop noticing what you are doing. So start asking yourself, does this deserve my attention? Not everything needs a reaction. Not every opinion needs an explanation. Not every argument needs a response. Not every person deserves access to your emotional energy. Imagine your attention as a spotlight. Wherever you point it becomes bigger in your mind. So point it carefully. Give your attention to things that actually improve your life, your goals, your relationships, your skills, your health, your family, your future, your peace. You don't become peaceful by eliminating every problem. You become peaceful by becoming selective about which problems deserve your energy. And the fifth rule takes that idea even deeper. 5. Replace "why me" with "what now?" Something goes wrong. You fail. Someone disappoints you. A plan doesn't work. Your first reaction might be, "Why is this happening to me?" It's understandable, but that question often keeps you stuck, because "why me" searches for an explanation. "What now?" searches for a direction. Imagine two people losing the same opportunity. One spends weeks thinking, "This isn't fair." The other thinks, "Okay, what can I do next?" The second person isn't necessarily less hurt. They're simply moving forward while they're hurt. That's resilience. Resilience doesn't mean you never feel disappointed. It means disappointment doesn't get the final word. When something goes wrong, ask 3 questions. What happened? What can I learn? What can I do next? These questions turn pain into information. Failure becomes feedback. Rejection becomes redirection. Mistakes become lessons. And setbacks become part of the journey instead of proof that the journey is over. You don't need to love what happened. You just need to stop letting it decide what happens next. 6. Stop expecting everyone to understand you. One of the most exhausting things you can do is constantly try to prove your intentions to people who have already decided what they believe about you. You explain, you clarify, you defend yourself, you give more details. And somehow, they still misunderstand you. Here's a difficult truth. You cannot control the story someone tells themselves about you. You can behave with integrity. You can communicate clearly. You can apologize when you're wrong. But you cannot force everyone to see you correctly. And once you accept that, something changes. You stop needing universal approval. You realize that being misunderstood isn't always a crisis. Sometimes people only understand you from the level of their own experiences. Let them. Your job isn't to convince everyone. Your job is to know who you are and live accordingly. This doesn't mean ignoring valid criticism. If someone points out a genuine mistake, listen, grow, improve. But don't spend your life chasing approval from people who were never interested in understanding you. Peace begins when you stop treating every misunderstanding like an emergency. And now we reach the final rule, the one that connects all 6. 7. Focus on the next step, not the entire mountain. Sometimes life feels overwhelming because you're trying to solve everything at once. You think about your career, your relationships, your money, your future, your mistakes, your goals, your responsibilities. And suddenly, your mind is carrying 10 years of problems in one afternoon. But you don't have to solve your entire life today. You only need to handle the next step. If you're overwhelmed, ask, what is the next useful thing I can do? Not the perfect thing, not the biggest thing, the next useful thing. Clean your workspace, make the phone call, study for 30 minutes, finish the assignment, have the difficult conversation. Go for a walk, write down the plan, one step, then another. That's how massive problems become manageable. Think about climbing a mountain. You don't stand at the bottom and somehow walk to the top in one movement. You take one step, then another, then another. Your brain often wants certainty before action, but life rarely gives you certainty first. Sometimes clarity comes because you start moving. So stop asking, how am I going to fix my entire life? Ask, what is the next step? That question is smaller. And sometimes a smaller question is exactly what an overwhelmed mind needs. Life may never become completely easy, but your mind can become stronger, calmer, and wiser. You don't need to control everything, please everyone, or solve your entire future today. You simply need to control your response, protect your attention, and take the next right step. Remember, peace doesn't come from having a perfect life. It comes from learning how to handle an imperfect one. So when life feels overwhelming, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what can I control and what can I do next? Master that mindset, and even difficult days will begin to feel much easier to handle.